Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Cynthia Linox Show. I am your host, Cynthia Linox, here to remind you that we are still celebrating the beginning of a new year, 2025. We celebrate the entire month of January. But at the same time, we are adapting. We are adapting to the changes around us. There's so much that's going on around the world, in our nation, in our country, and just around us. And in most cases, well, we're going to have to adapt. We're going to have to modify some things, the way we think. We're going to have to get rid of things that no longer serves us. And we're going to have to make changes. As we go through this journey of self-discovery, we're going to untap. We're going to untap a lot of things, or let's say tap into some new things this year and really understand the importance of you going through this journey of self discovery. And for those of you that are going through also a journey of religious deconstruction, it is important that you understand the conditioning that you have had from, well, all of us really, from a child, because we have all been conditioned to think a certain way, to behave a certain way, to react a certain way. We are all conditioned, and unless you discover your own identity, your own individuality, you are going through life with a struggle, with a fight against yourself. It's like, especially once you reach an adult. That's why teenagers, when they're getting into that adolescent stage, sometimes we label them as rebellious. Why? Because they want to do things their way. And if your individuality, if your self-expression was suppressed as a child, then as you grow older, you will continue to have a fight within yourself. Um, if as a child, let's say for instance, you were prone to sew, you like to design and you like to sew, or you wanted to be, you like to play with hair, hairstylist or so, and you are a male, gender male, and if that was suppressed, and let's say, for instance, the people around you suppressed that and said, what are you doing sewing? Little boys don't sew. Then you would not be able to become a Karl Lagerfeld, which is, a clothing designer, simply because that which you would have naturally developed was suppressed. So you grow away from the sewing machine when you could have become a great designer, fashion designer, and you take on another trade, perhaps business, perhaps engineering, the medical field, or somebody likes to work with their hands, or you may not have taken on a career and just really grow and work as a laborer. But and then at this time in your life, at this point in your life, what happens is that there is a struggle, there is a fight, because what you really wanted to be, what you really uh, was designed, created to be, was suppressed. A little girl that played with trucks, we would say, no, you can't play with trucks. She took apart trucks and things like that. We discourage it. Why? Because we, in our minds, in our culture, we assign certain behaviors to gender. Little girls don't play with trucks, little girls don't climb tree, and so forth. So we reach a point in our adult life where there is always a fight. So we fight against the things we don't, we want to be ourselves. And that's where we get trapped in an identity that is not really ours. Your parents tell you who they want you to be. Your teachers tell you who they want you to be. Your pastor tells you who they want you to be, and you become all things to all people except for yourself. And the struggle not only ensues, but stays within you. And some people, unless they have really come into an awareness of who they are, they will go through all of their lives sad, depressed, anxious, not knowing, unaware, totally unaware of who they really are. We have been conditioned in such a way. Conditioning is so strong. I even now am discovering, when I started this whole journey of my own, uh, and it was in my adult life. But, as I trace back, I realized that it goes back to when I was younger and, was in boarding school and got kicked out of boarding school because of um, mischief and so forth. But and as I continue to grow, I I find myself, it's like when you're in a cocoon and you're trying to burst out with new things, and I even see that now in myself. Certain things I didn't want to do, because it's just not me. I need to get to a place where I am comfortable with everything that I do. And I know that from a little girl, my whole desire was I wanted to help people, which, that's not a novelty. Most of us, or most of the things that we do, is to help humanity. I wanted to help people. I wanted to see people happy because that's always been my thing, and that's why my philosophy is we are created for pleasure. The purpose of life is pleasure. I just can't, that's what I live for, pleasure. And you have to define it however it suits you, but I know what it means for me, and I know that it works for me. And as I continue to think that way, it seems like my life is just geared into opportunities that brings me pleasure. So that's what I really wanted to do. Then and when I said I wanted to help people, I wanted to be a teacher. When I was little, I always thought of, teaching kids, growing up and being able to teach people and kids and so forth. And that idea or that desire led me into a position of leadership in corporate America, and I did get a lot of opportunities to encourage, to motivate, and to help people while I worked in corporate America. And as when I left corporate America, and I got my certification as a because even in college, my whole my major was psychology. I wanted to understand the human mind, the human brain. Why do we think the way we think, and how is it that our brain developed to absorb things, and how we can manage and function and all of that. And as I got my certification as a life coach, to me, that was just the natural route for me to take, simply because I have a clear understanding, and I am still developing and evolving in that, of happiness. And that was my whole thing, to help people come into a place of joy, peace, contentment, with themselves, and at the same time be able to radiate that to their family, their friends, and all the people around them. That was my desire. So that's really what I spent my time doing as a life coach. And I'm a transformational life coach. What I enjoyed seeing the most is people's lives transform. People's lives transform from one way to another. And with that, I realized that their minds had to be changed. Your life doesn't change by you going to another country, another city, another state. No, your mind changes. Your life is transformed when your mind is renewed. And as I continue to hone in on this whole transformational life coach approach to my coaching uh, career, um, I have come to find out that really the crisis that we have is an identity crisis. Most people don't know who they are because, who you are is not based on what you have or what you do. It's not based on where you live, the luxuries that you enjoy. It's not based on your career. It's not based on any of that. It is based on who you are, the essence of who you are. What do you do naturally? How do you gravitate naturally? And unless you discover that, and unless you are afforded a platform to unpack those desires, and sometimes they may be so unconventional, so against tradition, so unlike you, so not permitted because cultural views or societal construct, because of all that. But until you come into that place you where you discover and come to find out, it's not a thing that you discover and it ends, because I am discovering things about me. When I started this whole my show, the Cynthia Linox show, which airs once a week every Thursday at 2 p.m. Central Standard Time. When I started this show, my whole I was trained, for this. And during the training you had to decide what is your niche, what is it that you want to do, what is your message, what is your brand, what is it that you want to offer, what are you bringing to the audience. And my whole thing, I said to the instructor, I said, I want to see people happy, I want to make people happy, I want to make them aware that life is for pleasure. And how you achieve that is by, renewing your mind, is the way you think, the way you process information, and so forth. So I started out with the happy mindset. That was the title of my show, the happy mindset. And as time went on, I knew that I had to make some changes, simply because I had to identify the need. Why? Where is it? What is it that people really need? How is it that your mind uh, can be transformed so that you can reach that place of happiness? And as it will happen, I start realizing uh, the area of need where people had the biggest need, and the things that would hinder them, the biggest hindrance people experience, why they could not grow, why they could not come into that place of happiness, because of the conditioning. We are conditioned to take comfort in suffering, to take comfort in pain, to take comfort in struggles, to take comfort in trials, to take comfort in testing, being tested. And we glorify those experiences as we're coming out on the other side. We talk about a breakthrough. We have to get to a breakthrough out of these experiences. And we glorify that. We take comfort in that. That is normal. If you're sick, you get used to taking pills. You get used to taking medication. You get used to taking all kind of uh, doing procedures, and that becomes the norm. It becomes normal. It becomes normal. That becomes the norm, and you don't realize the power that is within you that starts in your mind. We don't think about that. We don't think about that at all. We don't that that is the farthest thing because I talk to people, and if something, if you go to the doctor, and that's it. And for those of you that are going through this journey of religious deconstruction, is that's even worse, because not only have you been conditioned by cultural experiences, societal experiences, community structures and things of that nature, but you are also indoctrinated into a religion that you have got to deconstruct from. With time, things change. Things change with time. Things change in information that is around us, technology, biology, scientific research. There are so many things that change, discoveries that we make. And as we hone in on these changes, we have to adapt to those changes. We have to evolve. We have to change our thinking. I mean, you cannot even talk to a Gen Z about a rotary phone. Why? They have no idea what that is. If they see it, for them, that's a relic. That's they don't have any idea what a rotary phone is. They have no idea. Why? Because things have changed. They don't even know, like today, we don't even have a house phone. Why? It's not necessary. Now we walk around with a phone. Everybody walks around with a phone. Everyone, I mean, if you don't have a phone today, it's almost like you're out of oxygen. Why? Because things have changed. And when these phones first came out, I was like, the first time some kind of phone came out, my husband got me one. It was a Casio phone, and I loved it. It was at that time it wasn't called a smartphone, but mine had the keyboard and the thing, and he had one of those flip phones, and so forth. So, and as time went on, I upgraded to an iPhone. Somebody told me about it, and I initially resisted changing my Casio phone for an iPhone. As a matter of fact, I was going to change it for a BlackBerry, because at the time, BlackBerry was the known business phone at the time. But somebody encouraged me, and she said, Cynthia, I know you, and I promise you, get an iPhone. If you're upgrading your phone, get an iPhone. You will never regret it. You will not regret it. And I did, because it's somebody that whose opinion I trusted, and they had an iPhone. And I got an iPhone, and ever since I have become an Apple girl. Now, my husband at the time, he had a flip phone, and he was happy with his flip phone. He says, all I need to do is make a phone call and get a hold of you when I need to get a hold of you. And I was having so much fun with my iPhone, and I insisted that he get rid of his flip phone and to get an iPhone. And he resisted. He resisted for about a year, or I don't know how long, 6 months, a year. He resisted, and I insisted. And when he finally yielded, we got him an iPhone, and today he doesn't even want to be left behind. If I upgrade mine, he wants to upgrade his. And so what I'm saying is that things change, technology change, uh, technology changes, and science, there are new discoveries. And as we learn information, you have to change accordingly. And if you don't set yourself up to change, you will be left behind. And for those of you that are going through religious deconstruction, I encourage you, and I encourage you on every show, you must do your own research, because the Bible, which is the guide for the Christian religion, and when I talk about religious deconstruction, I'm really referring to Christianity, and in to hone in, it's pretty much evangelical Christianity, because you know I grew up, I was a Catholic, and no issues there. You just live your life and that's it. But evangelical Christianity is a whole different thing. It's just totally different. There's just a lot that you are, expected of you to follow the rules, the laws, commandments, and a whole bunch of things that puts people in a spin and really leave a lot of people with trauma that you go through life and it's hard to overcome. As a matter of fact, this week I'm sure many of you have seen it on social media. This particular church in Virginia, this pastor had this young lady come in the front of the church. Evidently, it's like, I don't know, she may be 17, 18 years old, and she was pregnant. She became pregnant. And this is like a evangelical apostolic church, apostolic. I don't really know what, but I think I'm just kind of sharing from what I have read. And I don't know what really apostolic, but it seems like in the congregation you saw the women, they all dressed in white and they have these bonnets on and things of that. It's just a little different. And he had her come in front of the church, and and he would not, she was almost going to lean on the communion table, and he says, "Don't lean on the table." And I don't know what it is, anyway, the point is, he said, anyway, she came before the congregation to repent, to ask for forgiveness because she was pregnant, because she became pregnant. And that's, I've never heard anything like that before, but evidently there are churches that have those requirements as a law and things of that nature. She asked for forgiveness uh, from the congregation. She said, I'm here to ask for forgiveness because I'm pregnant. But what I find interesting is that, is like, Shai said to me, this person I know, Shai became pregnant when she was in college, and she was like, I don't know, 18 years old. And she said it was the first time she had sex, just once, and she became pregnant. And she says all of her friends, all of her college buddies were having sex. They just didn't become pregnant. And when she became pregnant, everybody pointed the finger at her. But, pregnancy is just a manifestation of what a lot of people are doing. And it is alleged that the father of the baby is right there in the congregation. But it was not required of him to go before the congregation to ask for forgiveness. I'm saying that to say this. Is that, can you imagine the trauma that this? Oh, and another thing the pastor said to her, and he better not hear that they're having any kind of baby shower for her, because pregnancy out of wedlock does not deserve a baby shower. It's nothing to celebrate. And I thought that was pretty hard approach to something like that. First of all, I didn't know why she had to ask forgiveness from the congregation. I mean, that to me didn't make any sense at all, because it's like what damage did she do to the congregation? She got pregnant. Either you get married or you just go on living as a single parent. That's it. That's life. I'm sure there are other people in church that are also having sex. They are either mature or smarter or know how to protect themselves by using some kind of contraception or condom or something, pulling out, whatever. They probably know what to do, or it probably has not yet, uh, sperm has not met the right egg, and so forth, and so they don't show any kind of pregnancy. But she got, I don't want to say she got caught, she just turned out pregnant. And again, I don't understand that whole religious thing, but what I am referring to is the trauma that she would go through in life. And to back it up, a lot of people had comments about it and so forth. And one girl said, we're going to give her the biggest virtual baby shower, and she was just encouraging people to contact her, and we're going to give her the biggest virtual baby shower and create a GoFundMe and so forth. And I thought that was interesting because people were mad as hell. People were not happy with that whole thing. And then there was this older woman, which shared her experience. She said it's been 47 years. And she said, today I still live with that guilt, with that trauma, with that hurt, with that pain, because she became pregnant at 17 or something like that, and also had to go before the church, the congregation. Now she understands, and it makes no sense to her, and she is resentful, and she lives with that trauma of having to go before the congregation, and she doesn't understand why she would have had to do that. But it's hard for her to and she had the baby, and it's a whole different dynamics, because in her mind, the baby was not supposed, the baby was born in shame. That was the whole idea. So she sees her son, she loves her son, but in her mind, the baby was born out of shame. And that shouldn't be, because if she, at that time, I don't know what options she had, but she had the baby, and in her mind, the baby was born in shame. And till this day, she said 45, and while she was sharing her story, she was just crying and crying. As a matter of fact, she was in her car, and she stopped. She said, I just saw this on my social media, and I've just got to say this. And she was just bawling, bawling, bawling. And she says, hello. And she just started cheering and crying because she remembers. So those are the things that happens to us. There are experiences that we go through in life that leaves trauma because of the conditioning of a belief system that we we have been uh, indoctrinated in. And because of the belief that it has created in our minds, we it's hard to even be happy. Why? Because we have all these thoughts, we have all these feelings, we have all these emotions that are still there, and it's not really us. Those are external conditioning that's been imposed upon us, and it's just hard to move forward. It's hard to be happy. Why? It's hard for her to be happy because she's got this thought gnawing at her at in her mind, and every time she looks at her son, all she can think of is not the love that she has for her son, because I'm sure she loves her son, but all she can think of is he was born in shame. Now, I don't know this person, and hopefully she hasn't shared that with her son. But if he sees the video that she made, and hear what she has said, that her son was born in shame, not only is she affected by the trauma, but that would be perpetrated right down onto her son, and he will believe that he is born in shame. So these things are important. When I talked about being a transformational life coach, and now really honing in on the area of identity, I think I have reached my niche, because I am learning of so many people that are really living a life that they were conditioned to live, and has now created trauma in their mind. There is this thing, somebody sent me a thing about some kind of a house. In the state of California, there's a devastating fire that's really wiped out a whole community in California. And, our compassion goes out to those people. And I encourage you, whatever we can do, I think there's like a GoFundMe for people that are less fortunate, that are having a hard time, because some people did not have fire insurance because I don't know why. Perhaps because California is prone to fires, and sometimes um, it becomes costly when they have these fires and houses are burned, and insurance go out of business and so forth. Anyway, the point is there's now a GoFundMe which we can contribute to help people, and I don't know how it's distributed. I don't, the source that I saw seems like a credible source where you can contribute. But if you have interest in contributing, it's like I share with a friend. I can't go there. I'm not in a position to go there. But if we can contribute, and in most cases, it's financially, so that they can buy the things that they need and begin to rebuild their lives. And in the meantime, they have to have a place to stay. They have to find a place to stay. And if they have families that are out of town or in another state, they may have to relocate and so forth. So there's a lot of need. But the point is this. Somebody sent me a picture of a house, and it's floating around on social media, showing that this is that this house. I don't know if it's a church. I get the impression that it's a church, and how all the houses around the church were not were burnt down, ashes, but the house or the church was untouched. And I don't know what the whole point is of of displaying that that structure. What is the message behind it? Because if the message is because it's a church, and I'm thinking, it doesn't say that it's a mosque or a synagogue, so I'm assuming that it would be a Christian church because of the structure. It doesn't look like a synagogue and it doesn't look like a mosque, so I'm assuming it's the structure of a regular church. And in one, and I don't know if it's another one. Yeah, I think it's another one. There's another structure of a house that, where Christians live. And somebody said, this house here is a house of Christians, and it was untouched. And then this one over here, which is in another whole different distance, is a church, and it was untouched. Now, my thing is this. And again, I don't know what the point is. If people are saying that the God of the Bible protected this church and this house at the expense and did not protect the other people or structures around them, because he's protecting this church, but then you wonder, well, so is it the building that he's protecting? What about the lives that were lost? So I don't know if that is meant to, uh, and one person uh, put wrote, God is not mocked, and I don't know if it's intended to scare people, but really, what it does, I mean, to me, I find it repulsive because the God that they're referring to, which is the God of the Bible. So you're going to allow this fire, and you that's omnipotent, omnipresent, and omniscient, you know all things, and you're all present, and you stand there and watch that happen. That's no God to serve at all, in my mind. And I'm sure in a lot of other people's mind, because people have expressed themselves. And some are saying, oh, yes, amen, and God is good. No, that is wicked. That is wicked. And because of all the things that we have learned, and because of all the information and the advancement that have been made in religion and in life itself, and for those of us that have studied, understand this. People are no longer afraid because religion is based on fear. And people are no longer afraid. What used to be, oh, you're going to hell, and people are no longer afraid, because why? We know the truth. And when you know the truth is what sets you free. We're not afraid of God. We have no fear of God. Why? And to think of it, when I think of the modern day dads and the way they are with their children and the way they treat them. When we were in Costa Rica over the weekend, I mean, over the weekend, over the holidays with our family to see how the dads of today, the younger dads, the Gen X, the Gen Zs, how they relate to their children and the confidence the kids have to come and jump and say daddy, daddy. It was just so exhilarating. The families that we were around, all of the dads. And I said to my husband after we got back to our hotel, I said, did you see that interaction? It was just so beautiful. That's the definition of a dad. That's the definition of a dad that I know. Now, in my experience, my dad was not expressive at all. My dad has never told me, I love you. But the things he did to show me, he didn't, it's not, my dad, when he grew up, his parents died. He was 7 years old. And he grew up with family members and so forth. So he didn't have that nurturing of that warm fuzzy nurturing. So that was all foreign to him, so he didn't have it to deliver it. But he would take us shopping. I remember like Christmas, Santa Claus was not part of our thing. We didn't do milk and cookies. We didn't do none of that. I would tell my dad what I want: a bicycle, a skate, puzzle. I would tell him, clothes, all of that, and he will get us what we wanted. And that was our experience. We didn't do Santa Claus. We didn't, Santa Claus was, of course, at the time I was in Panama. And, Santa Claus was a U.S. thing. That's what they did in the U.S. Of course, we had a tree. We had Christmas decorations and we had our house really nice. But we knew that there was no Santa Claus. That just was not part of our makeup because we knew that. And, until this day, I'm not one to, like my husband, I don't expect for Christmas. I tell him exactly what I want and we go get it. That's just the way it is. We would go get it. And, if we have a tree up, we wrap it up and put it under the tree. And, Christmas morning or whatever, we open it and we just get excited. Now for him, simply because I love to shop for my husband and he's easy to shop for, especially clothing and, things like that. And I would know what he likes, what he wants, and so forth. And he would be surprised. But to surprise me, nah, that just doesn't work for me. Because why? My experience growing up with Santa Claus was not part of our lives. But getting back to the father thing, but my dad, that was his way of expressing to us how much he cared. When my dad sent us to boarding school, my sister and I, my older sister and I, that was his way of saying, I want my kids to get the best education. Imagine that. And after when they kicked me out of school, he called up. He made sure that he talked to the administrative VP and blah blah, and they took me back. He did what he had to do, and they took me back, and they expelled me again. And he did what he had to do. He wanted us in that school because it was a renowned school, and all that kind of stuff. And that's what you do when you're able to in our part of the world. And then there was a third time, and the third time they said no, we don't we no mas. That is it. She is too much of a busybody. She's too mischievous, and we're not taking her back. So my dad pulled us out. He said, if she can't stay, then her sister's not staying, and he pulled us out. And I went back home and became an A student and all that kind of stuff. The point is, my dad showed us the love that he had for his children, that he wanted the best for us. He wanted the best. He wanted us to have the best of everything. I remember one time we went shopping, and he's over here at the store, and I'm over here at the other side, and I'm looking at this dress, and The dress was very expensive, and he saw me looking at the dress and looking at the tag and so forth, and he said, he comes over and he says, "What are you doing?" I said, "Oh, Dad," I said, "I'm looking at this dress, but look at the price." He said, "Do you like it?" I said, "Yes." He says, "Well, don't look at the price, because if you look at the price, you cannot afford it." He said, "Just get it." He said, "Because you deserve it." And I've grown with that in my mind. You see, that's a conditioning. He said, "You deserve it." And I have grown with that thought in my mind. Fortunately for me, that I was smart enough to keep that thought that I deserve it. That was like a for my husband, for my dad to tell me that I deserve it, that I deserve it. That was like a big thing, because he was a person of authority. He was a person that had the money. He was a person that had the last word. He was a person that decided. And he said, "You deserve it." And that has stayed with me till today. That has stayed. So when opportunities come my way, in my mind, I think I deserve it. When I met my husband, and he is a like stellar. My husband is this, a man of character, and I thought, I deserve it. I deserve to be loved that way. I deserve it. And if you don't, the experiences that you have had, capture something, my friend. Get something that has been positive, that's been good, a good experience. Capture it. Somebody told you, "Oh, you're going to be a bright star. You're going to be such a great influence in the world, and you're going to be such a compassionate person and helpful to humanity." Whatever it is that someone may have told you, take that. Amidst all the conditioning that you have had, take that and own it, and use that to deconstruct from the things that are negative. So when I think uh, of this God with the variance, because if God thinks that people are going to come to him, or if you have to coerce or threaten people to come to you by allowing destruction, that's not even true. you know if there are like 18,000 gods, so I'm referring to the Christian God of the Bible, that's again created by men, and who people, again, God exists in the mind of the Christians. When I was a Christian, when I was a believer, God existed. He lived in my mind. And when I decided no more religion, that's no longer part of my life, and start doing my search, that God no longer existed in my mind till this day. And our lives have been bliss. We don't get into any kind of religious behavior. We don't do this. Church is not part of our lives. Prayer is not part of our. That is just me. And there's no judgment. We don't judge ourselves. And whoever wants to judge us on the outside, that's not our business. We don't even. That's not even. We're not concerned with that. Now, we don't judge others. Now, we know what other people do and think, people that are Christians, and the belief system that is embraced in that circle. But and you can see it. You can see it by the behavior. And the thing of it is, as I mentioned earlier, we are continually evolving in information, biology, science, technology. We are constantly evolving. And when you listen, I know when I was, a believer, a Christian, I would be saying the same thing over and over. Why? Because I was guided by a book that is long outdated. Because when you go back and you look for the geographical positioning of, let's say, the cities of Sodom and Gomorrah, there is nowhere to be found. Now, I didn't do a deep dive into that, but I was talking with someone, a scholar, well, not a scholar, but someone that also has done a deep dive, and they said Sodom and Gomorrah is nowhere to be found. So once you start digging in, and once you start, trying to make sense of what the Bible says, you will see that it's so outdated. Why? Why you would know that it's outdated? Because what it says doesn't hold true today. It didn't hold true back then. But then once you become aware, you would know why you are still taking medication. When it says, lay hands on the sick and they shall recover. It doesn't say, no, it says they shall recover fully. That means no medication, no cane, no crutch, no devices, no oxygen, none of that. They shall recover. That doesn't hold true. And that's, people don't like to think, but that's critical thinking. That is critical thinking. Does it work? Does it apply today? It didn't apply then. Now the Bible talks about Jesus laying hands on the sick and they recover and so forth. Again, those are mythology, stories, tales. You have to find the facts, the evidence, the proof that those things happen. That's why I say things are evolving, and as things evolve, we have to evolve. You have got to change the conditioning, because when your kid is born, uh, they're growing 1, 2 years old. They take upon themselves what they see, and when they see you do like this, that's what they do. At that point, they don't even know that they don't even have the ability to believe anything. They're babies. But as they grow and you begin to indoctrinate and to condition their minds a certain way, that is what you grow with. And as you grow with that, that is the hardest thing to deconstruct, to remove, to take away that conditioning that is not serving you today. So you go through life with this warring about yourself, with yourself. Just a fight. And everything that happens to you, you call it a test, a trial, a struggle. eh, Just all of that, and it's just life. It's not a test. And that's why you have to regulate your emotions. You have to regulate your emotions so that you can effectively manage the things that comes upon you, the experiences you've had, because there's a solution for everything. And I'm not saying that it's always pretty. I'm not saying that it's always the best experiences, but life happens. And if you put yourself in a situation where you're going to feel that you're under attack, that's another word that's used. I'm under attack by some devil, under attack, or in a trial, a test, and I need a breakthrough. And, you go through all this mental conditioning when it's just, you have a situation, take a look at it and find the best solution. And as you continue to practice that, you'll see that you will grow in discernment, in wisdom, to be able to tackle the challenges of life, because we all have it, all of us, different situations. But as long as you have life, as long as you are able to, I've had, I think I've shared this before, situations. This is long ago, because my thing has been an evolution. But years ago, when I was just living, I made some decisions that were not smart, and I had to deal with it. I had to deal with those decisions, but I didn't think it was such a big deal. I've had situations where, I had to give up my housing. I had to, no car, situations like that. And, but I have always had great friends, and situations always worked out in my favor. But I don't remember myself sitting crying because of a situation, because when you do that, what it the information that comes to your mind is helplessness. When you get depressed, and it's helplessness, and I don't like to feel helpless, because in my mind I have the solution for everything that happens in my life, and so do you. I'm just giving you my reference. So do you. And once you know that, once you accept that, once you acknowledge that, once you admit that, and take on that posture of, I can do this, I can make this happen, then you will see how things begin to change for you and work in your behalf. It's all the mind. You have to understand your journey is individual, is to bring out your uniqueness. So you have to go through this journey of self-discovery, self-exploration, what it is that you like, what it is that you love to do, what are you navigating toward, what are you, when I talked about um the happy mindset, and me wanting to see people happy, and then I realized that the people that came into my path were people that were going through these traumatic situations with religion. I don't want to deal with that. I didn't that's not That was not my thing. And I said to my husband, I just keep coming back to that, but that's not what I want, because I am not religious, and I don't want anything to do with religion. And I have no fear at all. No fear of anything, any deity, any god, none of that. So I don't want to deal with it. But then when I experience the pain and the agony that people go through, physical, emotional, and mental pain, I see that it's madness. Why? Because religion is toxic. It is toxic. It affects your health. The things that you believe, and that there's a devil, and that there is hell, and all of that, and that there is a heaven, that when you die you die. I believe all those things, I mean, really on the surface, because I always question things, like, privately, in my mind. I would always say, like, and it's like I shared last week on my show. I said, I am not wired for heaven. That's not a place that I aspire to go. I don't, I'm not wired for heaven. I'm not wired for hell, and I'm not afraid of anything, of heaven or hell. That's just not part of my makeup. It's not part of my vocabulary. It's not part of my psyche. I don't think in those terms. But then again, there's so many people whose lives are hindered because that's all they think about. That's all they think about. And they're afraid to leave, to depart, because that is a place of comfort. And where there is comfort, that's where we stay. People don't want to leave the community of church. They don't want to leave the building. They don't want to leave their connections. They don't want to leave the associate. They don't want to leave that place. Why? Because it brings comfort. It brings comfort. But I'm saying, no, you have got, if you want to live a lifestyle of joy and peace, and just of fearless from this kind of indoctrination, then you have got to make some changes. The only way your lives will be transformed is when your mind is renewed, when you change your thinking, when you deconstruct from the conditioning that's been imposed upon you, and still is. Because if you're still part of that community, you're still hearing the same thing over and over and over. And that's how conditioning happens. When you hear an information over and over and over and over, and then it takes residence in your mind, in your psyche, in your heart, and you don't see any other way. But I am telling you, because I followed that for many years, over 2 decades. I followed those thoughts for many years. I used to teach that religion, the Bible, and all of that. I used to teach it, just at face value. It's not until after I left church that I start digging and searching, and then I realized, wait a minute, this thing is outdated. This thing is full of things that are not true. This thing is full of promises that are not kept. This book is full of claims that are not true, because that's what they are. They are claims. And I say that with all boldness. The Bible is full of claims that are not true, and promises that don't, people that, one simple thing, tithing. You that tithe, regardless, whether it's 10% or whatever it is, you should not have financial problems at all. Why? Because the claim is, when you give 10%, God will open the windows of heaven and pour out a blessing that you won't have room enough to hold. So you should have more than enough money to contribute to the GoFundMe if you feel so sad for the people of California. You should be able, because you should have more than enough. And if you don't have more than enough, then right there answers it's right there. That answers your curiosity. Be curious. Why is it not working? Why do you not have enough to buy a house, to buy a decent car, to send your kids to college if you're a tither? Why not? But even if you ask God, he says, you say unto this mountain, be the, do what. There are claims and promises. And I share that for those of you that are going through this religious deconstruction. You don't know what to do, and you're afraid, and you're so conditioned that it's hard for you to get away from those thoughts. And you're questioning, and you're wondering, and there's some people that I know, years ago, well, 2009, when I took this step of stepping away from religion, and I would post things on social media, and they came at me like, I mean, like, with fury. They're like, how dare you, blah blah. And I don't know what happened. After a while, we got disconnected from Facebook, and now I see that these folks have awakened to the truth, and now they're flourishing in their lives. Why? Because they themselves submitted themselves to learn the truth about the Bible, because they came at me like with fury. A whole bunch of people, actually. But, I was so determined at the time. And that's the thing. I have that, kind of rebellion in me, which is just fine. I'm good with it. The thing is this, I am not concerned with what anyone thinks or says. I don't, if this show is not for you, then that's fine. You don't have to watch. You don't have to watch it, but there are some people that need it, and those are the people that I'm speaking to. And I'm going to leave you with that, my friend, for you. Remember, it's mental and emotional conditioning. And now that you're going through your journey of self-discovery and religious deconstruction, understand that you'll come to a place of self-actualization, self-exploration. You've got to dig in to know who you are, because if you don't, you'll continue being who they have assigned you to be, and you don't want that. Again, I'm going to leave you with that. I will see you next Thursday at 2 p.m. Central Standard Time. If you want to drop me a note, go to the CynthiaLinoxShow.com and shoot me whatever questions you may have. Again, I'm a transformational life coach, and I kind of hone in on the area of identity. And I know that I can be of help to some of you out there. It's something that you can really develop on your own, but some people need coaching with that. So I'm available for that. There is a 30-minute complimentary time that I offer. So if that's you, then you can contact me at see those. And if you miss the show, you can always go to these icons right here. See Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube 24/7. I will see you next week, same time, same place. In the meantime, have a fantastic weekend and stay positive and optimistic in everything that you do. Hasta luego. I'll see you then.